Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. Today, I want to go ahead and react to a TikTok I found where the person, I guess, they're a fat activist because they have fat liberation in their description. They are happy that body positivity is dying, and I just thought that was interesting because I was just talking about that yesterday. So let's see what this person has to say.
There's a lot of discourse happening in the body positive / fat acceptance community right now. And people are making a connection, but not fully understanding the problem. So right now, there's a lot of people in the body positive space who are going, well, if people want to go on an intentional weight loss journey, we should let them, and you can't hate them for that. And obviously, right?
Is it obvious? Because it seems like a lot of people on fat liberation, fat acceptance, you guys tend to have an issue. Maybe not all, but I think it would be a good idea to at least acknowledge that there is quite a large group of fat activists that are very upset when people intentionally lose weight. I think that that's important to acknowledge. Maybe that's not how you feel. I think different fat activists, they have different takes when it comes to this. But at the end of the day, there's a large enough, at the very least, a large minority in fat acceptance that do have a huge issue when somebody loses weight. And we see this a lot with celebrities, for example. We see this with fat activist influencers or body positivity influencers, that kind of thing. People who are not even activistic, they have an issue. So I don't think it's necessarily obvious to a lot of people in this space.
Everybody gets to do what they want with their bodies. Nobody should be commenting on anybody else's body. Baseline things. The problem is that a lot of the plus size body positive influencers who are now on an intentional weight loss journey are spewing anti-fat bias, fat phobia, ableism, and a lot more awful things.
So I think what I would need to listen to this more is I need you to show me an example. I think people need to know what an example of those things are. Are they saying every fat person is ugly? Are they saying being fat is unhealthy? What are they saying? Because I could see, being kind of hateful towards fat people as a possibility, but also if they're just stating basic facts that are important for people to know, like being morbidly obese is unhealthy, that's not anti-fat bias or whatever. That's just, you're using it as a buzzword in that case. So you would have to clarify and say an example. I think that would be more helpful.
Yes. Most of the time, I'd say probably 99.999% of the time, intentional weight loss is based in anti-fat bias, whether that.
So they do not acknowledge health whatsoever. And I think that's sad. It's not surprising. We see this a lot. I've covered this type of content for a while now, and they often will do everything in their power to avoid the elephant in the room of health. I, on the other hand, on this channel, I talk about my health a lot. A lot. I talk about health a lot more than I talk about body shape and size. Because at this point in my journey, from being super morbidly obese to now being morbidly obese, my health is still a major concern. Now that may shift as I lose further and the journey continues. Maybe things will change, and maybe it will. I have talked a little bit more about especially social dynamics as things have shifted, as my body size has changed. But I hardly ever comment on the way my body looks. I hardly ever comment on the way other people's bodies look because I come from a history of toxic ritualistic behavior. So I think a fixation on that type of stuff is unhealthy. So I don't encourage it on my channel. But I do encourage health discussions. Very much so. All the time, because it's major. Even where I'm at now, I'm at the last body fat percentage. So I'm like basically one away. I think I'm 36.0 or something. I am 1 percentage point away from being out of morbid obesity. And I still have a lot of health issues. They're not as bad, they're not as pronounced as they were when I was super morbidly obese. You know, when my body fat was like 56 or something, like around there. 55, it was somewhere like that. It was horrible. It was a horrible feeling. It's a lot better now, but it's still bad. I still have a lot of obesity-related issues, and I talk about them. You know, I sometimes don't talk about my health as much now because it has improved, but I will still do it. I still have my health updates and stuff like that. It's a major aspect, so I do not appreciate how much they avoid that. So she's saying people only lose weight because of anti-fat bias. That is so... Oh my gosh, I just wish she could walk a mile in my shoes. I wish she could have experienced, felt what I went through in 2020 and 2021, and then try to tell that to me, to my face. That's what I would want on a personal level, because I was alone most of 2020. It had very little to do with other people. But she's going to be like, well, that's internalized. Well, my health was not internalized. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I had issues for sure, but that was the year I got over my toxic ritualistic behavior completely. So I guess there was internal work to be done, but it's not exactly the type that this person would suggest.
That is internal or external. And again, people get to choose whatever they want to do with their bodies, right? But if you have been an influencer who has built your platform off of plus size and fat people and positioning yourself as an advocate, as an ally, as somebody who plus size and fat people can look up to, and then you turn around, go on an intentional weight loss journey, and start talking absolute crap about those very same people who helped you build that platform, or start talking some anti-fat bullshit, then yeah, you're gonna hear about it. Now listen, it would be one thing if somebody went on an intentional weight loss.
I've said this a couple different ways and in a couple different videos, but my real thoughts on this are that there is obviously like good ways to handle a rebrand. There are bad ways to handle a rebrand. Not everybody's going to do it perfectly. What I will say is that fat activists in general, they put so much pressure on the issue and they make it such an aspect of identity that it does feed into a need to distance or denounce from it when you've left. So I think that I'm not saying it's completely the fat acceptance sphere's fault, but they do feed into it when it does happen. Because yes, there are going to be some people that really hate fat people, for example. But the general public typically will not care that somebody is leaving the fat acceptance movement. It's really the fat acceptance people that care. And they're the ones backlashing. And so when that happens, it can create a desire for somebody to kind of lash out. So I'm not saying that it's all one person's fault or all the other, but I'm saying that there is sometimes an interaction between audience and creator that can create those moments. So you might be manifesting that with these kinds of things. Also, it doesn't help if other fat acceptance creators denounce the person or make it a huge issue that they're losing weight. Then they're going to feel more defensive and do it. And it's fine. Like, I don't care, I guess, either way. Do what you got to do. But at the end of the day, that's why it happens, in my opinion.
Lost journey wasn't necessarily talking about it, and people were in their comments saying, oh my god, you're losing weight, and I know that happens.
Okay.
Right? And people should not do
Good. I appreciate that. I do appreciate it.
that. They shouldn't comment on somebody's weight loss or weight gain because you just don't know. You don't know what's going on in their life. And it's just very clear that a lot of people who are in the body positivity movement don't actually understand the tenets that it was founded on and will never, ever participate or partake in those messages. That's why people are like, oh, body positivity is dead. Good. Good. Let it be dead. Because you didn't actually care about fat people at all. So we don't need you.
Well, because if you cared about fat people, you'd want them to fix the issue, essentially. I think it's impossible to care for fat people and accept obesity. It's not possible, especially if you're encouraging it or in some cases promoting it or lying about it. All those things are very negative. Very, very, very negative things to do, and that's not care for fat people. Care for fat people is helping people or supporting people in getting over their issues, be they physical or psychological. That's what helps fat people. Helping fat people is creating a culture that encourages fat people to get out and do things, because oftentimes it will show them that it's holding them back rather than keeping them locked up in the basement so they can just watch TikTok all day. You know, super morbid obesity and issues revolving around it thrive in being hidden away from the world. I think it hits fat acceptance rhetoric, especially hits introverts very, very hard. And it's really important to speak out against it and not reinforce it. And again, to help people get out of the house more. That's like a major, major thing, because it really helps. It doesn't help everybody who's fat, but it does help people. Trust. So that's the kind of stuff that you would advocate for if you do care about fat people. You would care about them doing things that actually work, focusing on issues that are actually at hand. I talk a lot about toxic ritualistic behavior and hypothyroidism on this channel, for example. Those are two things that affect a lot of people that are super morbidly obese. And I always encourage people to work through those issues, physical and psychological, in whatever means that they have available. And that's the kind of stuff that helps, knowing that it's not always inevitable. If you lose weight, that you're going to gain it back. If you do it sustainably, if you do it healthfully and with a healthy mindset, you won't. And showing it, which is what I'm doing. So I'm losing weight publicly. All those things help fat people. Encouraging them to stay the same, encouraging them to get bigger, it does not help fat people whatsoever. I am not a fat acceptance person. I do not accept it. So that doesn't mean I don't accept the person, because as we say on this channel all the time, you are not your obesity. Obesity has zero aspect of your identity. And if you think it is, that is not a healthy mindset, I will just say. And I will warn you that it is an unhealthy mindset.
Lose weight if you want. Go for it. Are people going to be
Will do.
probably disappointed if you're a influencer because they're losing a form of representation?
You don't owe anybody that. You don't owe people your health. You need to prioritize it. You don't owe sacrificing your health for your image or for the feelings of your audience. That's stupid. But at the same time, you just you gotta make sure that, I don't know, I wouldn't suggest being a fat activist because it's unsustainable and it's just bad strategy because you're gonna hit a wall eventually. That's my opinion. I'll just say that kind of humbly. So, anyways.
Somebody who they looked up to and who they saw themselves in, yes, they are. They are going to be disappointed. Whether or not they should be is neither here nor there. That is just the reality. But don't sit there and act like a victim.
It can be traumatic when you lose friends. It can be difficult when you're being punished for making a healthy decision in your life. It's a very twisted incentive that you guys create. So in my opinion, there is a bit of victimization going on in that scenario because you're pressuring somebody to destroy themselves. So I would consider that person a bit of a victim in that circumstance. Not in every circumstance, but if you're cutting them out of, or you're ostracizing them, making them persona non grata because they're deciding to lose weight, that is traumatic. Ostracization can be traumatic, and it can be especially traumatic for women. So it is a victimizing moment in that person's life. So I think it's a situation that the creator created by going into that space, but once you're in it, you got to get out, so I will always support somebody getting out. But I'm just saying there is an aspect of victimization if you're pressuring people to destroy themselves. That's how I will put it.
You are saying awful, terrible, horrible crap about yourself and therefore other people. Because make no mistake, how you talk about your body influences how other people talk about their bodies and other bodies in society. Yep, it's a big responsibility. And you would know that if you paid attention to the original tenets of body positivity. But, there's that.
I definitely have a bit of sensitivity towards it that I don't know that a lot of people necessarily do, just because not everybody has struggled with those psychological issues. So I try I don't hold other people to a standard that they don't necessarily understand. So I don't judge people as much. I just don't take part in it myself. What I will say from an advocacy standpoint is that it's not always obvious who is struggling with that. But if you see somebody that's really fixating on the way that they look, or somebody who is really struggling with weight loss and regain and just certain things, I would just be edgy about making comments about their body just because it could affect their anxiety. That's my advice. If you kind of can suspect or see something, just go easy on it because you're not sure how far along they are in recovery. But a part of recovery is you have to accept that the world can be triggering. Post-recovery, I deal with a lot of triggers, a lot. Especially this year because I've kind of returned to real life, so to speak, because I'm not just entirely focusing on my health, and I've gone out and I've done things and I'm starting to kind of spread myself really thin and do these different things because I'm trying to catch up because I feel behind in my life because I had to take a few years to work on my health. So I get overwhelmed and I get triggered as I experience things, and I don't have the coping mechanism anymore. And it's challenging, but that's a part of recovery, is you have to understand that the world is not a safe space and you have to develop resilience during and after recovery. And I will tell you that, because the world isn't necessarily going to treat you with kid gloves. And I want you to be successful. So I want to be realistic about it. But thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys again soon. I hope you have a good rest of your day, night, whatever. Let me know your thoughts down below. I hope to see you again. Peace. Bye.